Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome to Formula B iRacing Super Formula Season 3 of 2026, Round 3 from Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, aka Mexico City. We're up in the heights of Mexico City and we're looking forward to this great race, Round 3 of the championship, to bring you live coverage here on SimSpeed TV. I'm David Haynes with Cam Dance, and Jay Kennedy is across our production. Cam, we love this type of racing. These cars are so quick, they require precision, but they really reward the drivers. The drivers so enjoy it, and we've had a couple of great seasons covering this.
Yeah, absolutely. Every time we seem to put these cars on track, it provides a really, really good race, a really entertaining one that adds a lot of strategy, a lot of hard racing as well, and just makes it really, really cool to watch. So I imagine today will be
This is split one of strength of field. So this will be some of the best drivers we ever see all week in this, not league, but in fact series, iRacing series. It's open to anyone, and these are the highest rated drivers. These are our best drivers, and it is a tie for the championship. Kevin Foster and Timothy Fries-Larsen with 1 win each. They are both on 23 points, 1 pole apiece as well. Behind them, in third place, is Victor Awa, Dejan Paunov in fourth, Dan Jiang in fifth, Lucas Hand in sixth. There's Lawrence Brown there in seventh, Daniel Radimilovic in eighth, Eugenio Stanislav, I think it might need to be in ninth, and Benjamin David in 10th. And we're going to see who can take the pole and the race win today in Mexico City. If you're looking at iRacing's championship official series that covers all time slots all throughout the week, it's Dan Jiang from Kevin Foster, Timothy Fries-Larsen, Lawrence Brown, Victor Awa, Dejan Paunov, Benjamin David, Rojan Sena, Eugenio Stanislav, spelt correctly there, and Brian Carey in 10th. Very easy for me to take cheap shots at our director. Good thing that I never make any mistakes on these broadcasts myself. It just goes to show, though, that if you score big points here in this broadcast time slot, you'll be right up the top of the championship. This is the time when the best drivers come out to race Super Formula. So the circuit, Mexico City, right in the heart of one of the parks in the cities. And of course, the key visual landmark these days is racing in the middle of the baseball stadium. This is one of the many track configurations, Cam. Cam Dance will recover from altitude sickness. The long front straight here into turn one is always going to be your greatest overtaking opportunity. And then the turn 2 and 3 switchback chicane also provides some great opportunities. Into 5 and 6, fast sweepers through turn 7 to turn 10. By all accounts, we're going to be staying outside of the baseball field. Foul ball, but around the outside is super quick, and it's all about how much speed you can carry onto that front straight. The overtake system for the Super Formula cars and how the drivers use it will also be really, really important. The drivers need to optimize that for where the straights and the overtaking opportunities are around a lap. Qualifying underway, and here is one of the drivers tied for the championship lead. We're watching Timothy Fries-Larsen's qualifying, and other times come in from other drivers. Kostek Solovic up top, a minute 13.5. Still seeing a whole heap of tyre preparation from Timothy Fries-Larsen. Cheeky little burnout before they go around the Peraltada and onto the front straight. All about full power here. Daniel Zofko jumps up to 4th. Jack McCauley up into 11th. A chance that the timing line is different here on this configuration than the NASCAR configuration. There are so many ways to go racing in Mexico City. On the oval configuration, the Formula E configuration, the NASCAR config, and then this alternative version of the Grand Prix configuration. Track is justy offline for Timothy Fries-Larsen, who has no time on the board just yet. He'll know what the target is, a minute 13.5. Lucas Hand puts in a minute 14 to go 4th place. It's Awad 3rd in the championship. Not in this race, it seems. Noddy ML up into 5th. Fries-Larsen is one of the last drivers left without a qualifying time in this session. A few other times drop in there. Fachado in 7th, Benjamin David in 10th. This is how you got to take a super fast long corner. Peraltada. So Fries-Larsen stays wide through the entry, comes to a late apex and crosses the line and jumps into only 4th position. But he might have one more lap in him. There's time left. With 2 minutes in this session, we are doing lap times that are hardly over a minute. a look at the weather in Mexico City. Not only is the sun coming and going behind the clouds and the temperature is relatively mild, there is the tiniest sprinklings of rain on the radar, not far away, but perhaps either side of the racetrack. As we jump from qualifying into the race, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a tiny bit of water in the grass and in some of the curbs, but this has all the appearances of being a dry race, but we've got the ability to keep an eye on it, and we'll see. So Timothy Friese-Larsen needs a 2.5 improvement if he's going to jump up to take another pole position worth 3 points in Super Formula to take pole, and that's one of the things that Timothy Friese-Larsen will be aiming for. Final corner, and he jumps to the top. That was so close.
Yeah, cutting the margins fine, very, very close there. Just getting across the line in time, and looks like there is actually rain falling by the looks of it based on that background.
Well, this could be very interesting for round 3. The top split of iRacing Super Formula Series at Mexico City will have the championship leader, Timothy Friese-Larsen, on pole position. Kostek Solovic has qualified second. Dan Jiang is in third. Dejan Paunov in fourth. Lawrence Brown in fifth. And Lucas Hand in sixth. Nodi Emalver is seventh on the grid. Miguel Fechado in eighth. Daniel Zofko in 9th and Andrew Petty in 10th. Benjamin David 11th. Denis Morentsov in 12th. And it looks like all of our drivers have qualified because Brett Greaves is in 13th place. Jack McCauley is in 14th. Felipe Sarkis is in 15th. And Ansis Law is in 16th. These spectators are all hyped up, but I think they've been copy-pasted from some other iRacing tracks because they are not wearing big enough hats to be Mexicans.
We find that they're also used to getting wet as well, so they're probably using some sort of waterproof layer on top of themselves. But noticing that a couple of drivers
they could be Kiwis because everywhere they go, they always bring the weather with them.
Very true.
We'll get a double check on some of these tyres as we go. The whole field gridding ready for the race, and by all accounts, this is a dry track. There was maybe the tiniest sprinkling of rain in some parts. Don't see any of it here.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's raining on the front straight, only on sort of the back section, which is a bit strange, unless it's just the way that the light's coming through. But it's looking like there's about 3 cars on the grid on wets, 4 actually, so everybody else on dries.
We got a dry window to get this race underway, and we are about to in Mexico City. Wheel spin, burnouts, and a massive run towards turn 1. Timothy Friese-Larsen without the perfect getaway. We're 3 wide for the race lead. Dan Jiang and Kostek Solovic on the other side. Track is dry, heading down towards turn 1. And Dan Jiang is going to try to sweep around the outside of turn 1. Solovic dives to the apex, and here there might be a tiny bit of rain falling at turns 1, 2, and 3. We're still all over the road. Solovic leading. Friese-Larsen trying to cut back. Dan Jiang in defence. A few drivers activating their overtake system potentially here into turn 4, challenging around the outside. Friese-Larsen demands room for the apex of turn 5. This tight and tricky section, there is a misting of rain falling. Double apex to the right. Friese-Larsen has his nose ahead. He's going to try to squeeze out Solovic as we go into the S's, and he demands the race lead. Dan Jiang back into third, having led for a corner or two. Lucas Hand and Andrew Petty are the remainder of the top 5. Track looks dry here. Slicks are definitely the tyre to be on, but there might be some dramas back here.
It looks like a couple of incidents. Oh, and that's a spin there as well for Lawrence, unfortunately getting a little bit loose. I think he's on slick, so just getting caught up by the cold tyres there, and you see there's just a little bit of mist coming off those tyres at the moment on the front straight as they come down and towards turn 1, but at the moment track's still dry enough for dries. But if it does keep raining, it wouldn't surprise me if there is maybe a little window where these wets might just come into it, and he's the incident that happened at turn 4 as well. Oh, just getting caught out as well by the spin that happened in front of him, nowhere to go.
Yeah, bit of wheel-to-wheel contact, perhaps 3 damaged cars there. These Super Formula cars can be slightly fragile. We've seen rear wings fall off before. And Dan Jiang dropping back to 4th because Lucas Hand is up into 3rd. Timothy Friese-Larsen unable to break the slipstream, and this feels like a track with very high average speeds and a very powerful slipstream. Our top two yet to touch their overtake system. Lucas Hand and Dan Jiang look like they used a little bit as they battled, and we've got a couple of cars in the pit lane. You wouldn't normally take a pit stop in this race. It's because they've got damage.
Yes, obviously those three that got put out on lap one, unfortunately, with damage in pit lane with their, I'd say probably day done based on how long they've been in the pit lane for now. Maybe be able to get back out if it's not too bad, but unfortunately retirees after lap one. But Fries Larsen doing pretty good at controlling it at the moment at the front of the field. You can see Lucas Hand as well, having to really work it down the back here, getting a little bit out into the marbles, but really having to work it through that final corner and on the overtake system as well.
The speeds could be monumental here at Mexico City, over 300 kilometers an hour with the overtake system in the slipstream. But the top two are the form of the field, Fries Larsen and Kostek Solovic, just a little bit ahead of Lucas Hand, and they haven't used their overtake system. Still 200 seconds in their back pocket, but Solovic around. He spins in turn 3. A mistake, bouncing over the curb, running a tiny bit wide. Timothy Fries Larsen with a 1.3 second lead. Solovic loops the 180 back on the track, but that is not what he wanted at all. He was in the fight, now he's out.
Yeah, unfortunately, just getting over that curve a little bit too much and then got a little bit too greedy on the throttle as a result of the pogoing that was going on that rear suspension. Unfortunately, set him around, so he's going to have his work cut out for him now, and here's the replay. You can just see he getting nice and aggressive over the first curve, and then just a little bit too much, a little bit of pogo, and around it went.
Got yellow anti-cut curbs in those apexes there in this version. And he's recovered to 8th place, just behind Noddy Emel. Benjamin David in 6th, Ansis Law up into 5th, and here we go through the S's, the big difference of confidence, and a replay from onboard. As we saw the replay, I saw exactly what Cam Dance described, that here, the rear just bounces right as you put the power down. Noddy Emel in the lane from 6th place.
Yeah, that'd be to get rid of the wet since he started on the wets. Wasn't looking like it was going to be a bad call very early on, but unfortunately those wets will be seeing a little bit of hate after heating up pretty quickly, I'd say.
And we ride on board with Daniel Zofko, and those are wet tyres for him in 11th. Wonder if he's got a Honda or Toyota engine in his Super Formula. The choice is yours, and it makes functionally no difference, but you got to pick one.
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to tell where he would be running. I'd say a Renault, but that doesn't make any sense.
Well, it's not a Mechachrome because it's still running.
Indeed it is, so that's not possible that it would be a Mechachrome.
This is the part of the lap where you think those wets would really cost you, the really super laterally loaded part through the S's. Track looks dry, no spray from behind the tyres there. So slick tyres will give you the performance in the places where the track is dry. Timothy Fries Larsen with a 1.7 second lead now over Lucas Hand. Dan Jiang back into the podium spots, and nearly contact there as we've got a couple of those wet drivers heading to the pit lane. Denis Morintsov and Jack McCauley in the lane. They did start this race on wet tyres. It is now the wrong choice. They got a pit to take them off, and that means if you started deep in the field on slicks, you might be very advantaged. Kostek Solovic fighting back up into 6th now, ahead of Benjamin David.
And David made a little bit of a mistake at that final corner as well. Just got a little bit wide on the way out, and it just allowed Solovic to just get a nice little run on towards the front straight. I have actually noticed that they're all hitting the limiter on the overtake system as well down the front straight with the draft. So probably something that just needs to be kept an eye on, because it might just cause a little bit of temperature spiking on that engine as well for some of these guys.
The altitude is ridiculous here in Mexico City. I believe iRacing says we're 2,240 meters above sea level, which is higher than the tallest point of Australia, but not New Zealand. You guys have got some actual mountains, and that's why Sir Edmund Hillary's not Australian.
I would tend to agree with that, and it's actually kind of a funny thing because Taupo Motorsport Park, or Bruce McLaren Motorsport Park, whatever you want to call it, is actually 1,000 feet above sea level. So it is actually one of the highest racetracks in the world. Oh, there's a car in the wall, not a Yamel, and then there's a car around as well just before.
These are some drivers that have switched to slick tyres. We saw Noddy ML's pit stop, and we've just seen Denis Morintsov go around, but I wouldn't be surprised if going to a new set of cold slick tyres might have caught out some of those drivers that started the race on wets. For Morintsov, it's just clipping that apex curb as you're trying to open up the throttle, isn't it?
Yeah, it just looked like he just caught it ever so slightly. That's a very odd place to have lost the rear end there as well, especially with the fact that it's not a super loaded corner as well, so not quite sure how that's happened, whether it was just a little bit too much throttle for the cold tyres or what, but yeah, very, very odd for him to spin there, did Noddy.
Well, there's been a good race for Timothy Friese-Larsen, because if you recall back to the opening lap, he was sandwiched 3 wide heading down in towards turn 1. He shuffled back into the pack, but one by one, they've fallen away. They've spun around, they've dropped out of the slipstream, and now Timothy Friese-Larsen, with 200 seconds of Overtake System still in his back pocket, leads by almost 2 seconds, now over 2 seconds, from Lucas Hand and Dan Jiang. And Andrew Petty and Ansis Law coming through. As Kostek Solovic, he was one of those drivers challenging for the podium, challenging for the win, spun around in turn 3. And you can see everyone's taking that curb. It's just a matter of timing the throttle application with the bumps and the bounce.
Yeah, it does seem to be what the case is. I do also think that now that there's a bit of tyre temp as well, it does help that there's going to be a bit more grip on offer as well. I have noticed that everybody's really cutting that first curb as well and getting away with it, so a lot of aggression through that first part of the chicane to try and set up the second bit as well.
This looks like it might be still wets for Benjamin David in 7th position.
He's on dries by the looks of it. Greaves is on wets though, and he's not pitted yet, which is a bit odd, but I'm wondering if there's a little bit of strategy here where there's no point losing the time, and the amount of time that you'd lose on track staying on the wets is actually going to be less than a pit stop. Sort of interested to see how much further he falls behind compared to those around him, and especially compared to those who have actually pitted for the new drives as well.
Well, the data tells us Greaves, Zofko and Sarkis are still on wet tyres. Jack McCauley and Denis Morintsov behind them on slicks. McCauley only needs to reel in 10 seconds to battle wheel to wheel with the driver on wet tyres. That could be interesting to spot the difference. Here is on board with McCauley, and yes, that's definitely a Scotsman with that helmet. About 5 seconds a lap faster than those on wet tyres, so give it a lap or two. And he's going to be catching those in front. And we're only on lap 8 of 28 at Mexico City right now. Greaves, Zofko and Sarkis are just, by all appearances, going to try to manage their wet tyres to the end. They must be absolutely roasted.
Yeah, I'd say those wets will be pretty warm at this point, and you'll start to be driving around like you're on bubblegum almost. You'll be moving around, sort of having this weird numb feeling of grip but no grip, and all the sort of weird feelings that you don't really want in a race car. It's probably one of the most weird feelings you ever have, especially in the sim where you don't really have the seat of the pants feeling as well.
The duel for 8th and 9th. Yeah, certainly see the rear of the car moving around. That's characteristic of wet tyres, with the treaded blocks, and the car just races at a little bit more slip angle than it would on a dry track with slick tyres, particularly once they get super overheated. How's the slipstream like? Not enough for Daniel Zofko, and often the wet tyres also cost you some straight line speed, extra rolling resistance and whatever else is going on.
Yeah, altitude playing a big factor in the amount of draft you'll have at this track as well, so it's not going to be as strong as it would be at somewhere much lower, somewhere like Monza, where you're actually going to have a little less altitude to work with. But these two still going at it for these little minor positions. You can see they're both sliding around so much on those wets.
And all the while, Jack McCauley is catching. I believe numbers that size can be described as hand over fist. Anything more than a second and a half a lap would be in that ballpark. 2.8, 4.2, 3.7 would suggest that by about turn 1, Jack McCauley will probably be looking at the top 10, and still a long distance to go in this race. That kind of pace advantage is supreme. This looks like Brett Greaves might be coming in. Daniel Zofko goes around the outside of him on the wets. Brett Greaves comes in for slicks. I think if we're talking a 4-second a lap pace difference, this is the correct move. You will make the time back.
Yeah, I'd say it's pretty advantageous based on what we've seen so far from those who have pitted for the slicks from wets, that it is a pretty big advantage. So going to be a good call here. He's going to be able to at least get some points back as well, with the fact he's going to be catch those up around him.
Been seeing Dan Jiang using some of the overtake system, unlocking some extra horsepower, trying to stay with Lucas Hand. One of those cars on new slick tyres comes out of the pit lane, drops in between them. Perhaps slightly useful for Dan Jiang. One of the quirks of the overtake system compared to push to pass or DRS is that if you use it, there is a cooldown, and we've got a little problem there. I think that's Morentsov trying to stay out of the way of the leaders, hopefully.
Oh, no.
They've collided a lap down in front of Dan Jiang, who's half spun, trying to avoid them. Back markers collide in turns 4 and 5. Andrew Petty is now going to battle for a podium position, 3 wide in front of the fans in this arena section. Petty has the podium. Dan Jiang did nothing wrong. Morentsov with technical issues, and the other driver on cold slick tyres have collided in front of him. Lucas Hand has a good grasp on second place now.
Certainly does have a nice buffer now as well. And I've just seen Sarkis as well put it in the wall. Brett Greaves with no rear wing has put it in the wall as well. So a lot of mess and a lot of digest out of that instant. You see the two ahead. Fortunately, spin. Jiang nearly got away with it, but that little bit of just a touch to the right front is looking like it's damaged his front wing a little bit, so that won't be helping him at all, and especially in a straight line on this sort of a track, that you're going to need that straight line as well. So he's at least got away with it a little bit lightly, but it could have been much worse.
Certainly Daniel Zofko looks a little smarter for staying on his wet tyres. Jack McCauley's made up a bunch of positions, catching those drivers, and as some of them have pitted for wet tyres and then maybe subsequently crashed. So the Scotsman is up into 8th, and there are just 9 cars left on the lead lap in Mexico City. Timothy Fries Larson to an almost 5-second race lead. Battle for 2nd and 3rd, as we've seen, has just been split. Hand from Petty. Dan Jiang rolling in 4th, but not that far ahead of Ansis Law. It looked like Jiang avoided getting any damage there, hopefully. But if he has some, Law is just behind him.
Replay of Sarkis and what happened to him over the curb. And around it goes. Just, yeah, I think the curb might have unsettled the rear there, but hard to tell.
So, the battle for the final podium spot is these 3 cars and 1 back marker amongst them. Dan Jiang in red, and Sislaw is 1 second behind, so he will be the car behind, and you can see Andrew Petty in red and white just up there in 3rd place. We ride on board with Law in 5th place.
Yeah, I imagine these the 2 behind Jiang will get by pretty quick with the lack of front wing damage in the next couple of laps. Pretty good recovery as well from Solowesh to end up in this little fight as well, considering he spun it early in the race and ended up a little bit on the back foot as well. So he's done pretty well to recover this, and he's going to end up, if he can still keep pushing, he might even be able to get onto the podium.
Well, this could be very, very juicy. It looks like Andrew Petty's getting a little bit further away from them, so it's Jiang, Law and Solovich that we become most interested in. This sort of fast version of the final corner looks a challenge to patiently wait before you tip the nose into the apex final corner. We've got plenty of overtake system and weaving to try to break the draft going on, but here comes Solovic, a double toe. He's surely going to hit that limiter in 6th gear, diving to the inside of turn 1, looking for 5th place. That's almost perfectly executed.
Yeah, very well executed move there to get the position. He's still on the overtake. I just turned it off now, but was on the overtake after the first corner as well, just after the chicane. So trying to get a little bit of that gap closed down to Jiang, and he's now going to be all over him. So I'd say there's a movement coming to get into fourth in the next half a lap, I'd say. Probably going to be happening on the way down to turn 1, if not before that.
Positions gained. Andrew Petty's come from 10th on the grid to 3rd. That's rare and tough to do in this Super Formula racing usually. We're about Ansys Law from the final spot on the grid and part of a podium battling group here. Super interesting to see that. And Andrew Petty also, when Jack McCauley picking up big spots. On board with Dan Jiang. Turns in a little bit earlier to the Peraltada compared to Solovich and Law behind. Saw that both of those drivers a lap ago were on the overtake system, definitely in the cool down for Solovich. Dan Jiang moves across to try to break the slipstream, but I think he does have potentially some damage, costing him straight line speed. We're going to go side by side. Solovich is going to break so deep around the outside of one, but he's going to lock up. He's going to run it off the road, shortcutting across. No way he gets to keep that position. Must be a slowdown for that. Jiang looks like he'll get it back.
Yeah, it's definitely going to slow down there, but doesn't look like Jiang's just going to get it in the end. I thought Law might have been able to get 2 for 1 at turn 1 as well with everything that was going on, but it's not quite, and Solovich going to come back as well on the way down through the stadium section. He's just going to get that position back, and Law's going to get at him in 2.
Side by side into the S's, Jiang on the inside. Tight, tough moment there with Law just behind in 6th. Got to slice our way through here. And Law almost runs wide out of that section. Dan Jiang back into 5th place. Petty pretty secure in 3rd. Solovich has moved past these drivers up into 4th, despite a mistake at turn 1.
Yeah, now the interesting bit will be to see what sort of pace Solovich can pull out of this race car to try and catch up to a podium finish of Andrew Petty, whether he's going to have enough of a gap of variance and pace to get that position or not is going to be very interesting, knowing that he's had some pretty good pace, especially early on before he spun it behind Fries Larsen. So be fascinating to see if he can get it, but it's definitely going to be, at least at this point, a little bit of a hard slog, I think, to get there.
Oh, a lock up, a bit of a slide from Jiang. Law down the inside. I'm starting to think maybe there is a tiny bit of damage on that car for Jiang. It seems like he was missing some straight line speed. That might have been just a straight up mistake at turns 4 and 5 in one of the slower sections of the racetrack where you don't have all the downforce loading onto the car. Here from challenging for the race lead and having his nose in front at points, now back into 6th position. 12 laps to go. A few of the drivers still activating their overtake system, but none of them quite going to catch Timothy Fries Larsen at this stage. Just over a 6-second race lead, be able to manage his overtake, manage the gap, and he keeps rattling off new fastest laps of the race as they burn through the fuel. The car gets lighter. So maybe as they dry off a couple of the curbs and build temperature on what would be a cold track after that rain.
Track temp still, well, it has warmed up a little bit, but it's still reasonably cool-ish as the track temp. Only 26 degrees at the moment. It was 19 when it was raining early on, but it's still reasonably cool, so there's still going to be plenty of grip out there on offer.
Here's the race leader and the championship leader heading for a second win in 3 races. He keeps pulling away, and the rest of them keep falling away from him, it would seem, especially in today's race. To the front straight he goes with no overtake system, working his way up through the 6 gears that the Super Formula car has got, and of course minding the traffic. Lap time barely over a minute here, and a handful of drivers starting on the wrong tyres, a handful of drivers crashing. So easy to end up a lap down.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a weird race, this one, with a couple of drivers unfortunately up a lap down. So they will have to be a little bit mindful of that as they are catching those in front of them, and then also keeping an eye on their rear view, that they are going to potentially have some quicker cars coming up behind them. You can see the position gains a lot of shakers and movers through the field with all the dramas that have unfolded in this race. Obviously spins, accidents, tyre changes and everything else. And then it's interesting to see the usage in the overtake as well. Just noticing that everybody's sort of been using it in a sort of a paced way. Nobody's been really sort of burning it, apart from obviously those in the middle of the field. But Timothy Frieslarsen is still cruising around with his 200 seconds in hand. Doesn't really have a point to use it other than to get the tape measure out, which will probably happen on the last lap, I imagine.
Yep, and a minute 12.9, he's doing okay without it. Right on board with the race leader into turn 1, uses that to open up turn 2, which he cuts across to open up turn 3, has that little bit of a slide on the exit that is characteristic.
I've just noticed as well, Solovich doing the fastest lap on that last lap as well, so he is absolutely hustling at the moment to try and catch up to Andrew Petty and try and get this podium place back as well.
Here they are, underneath the bridge, and last lap, Solovich, that's a juicy margin. Petty's got a little bit more overtake system remaining if push comes to shove in the final laps.
Doesn't look like Solovich even used the overtake on that last lap either, so that's actually pure pace that he's done there. So I'd say that gap at the rate it's going, at least based on that last lap, is definitely going to come down, and it's probably going to be a podium finish for him at this rate. I have also noticed he's just got ever so slightly a little bit of front nose damage as well, just from obviously contact maybe potentially earlier on, but he's doing all right with it, so it's not affecting him too much by the looks of it.
And the new lap time comes in, 7/10, so there is time here. The Jaws music is on for Andrew Petty, and the final step on the podium. And looking relatively secure in second behind race leader Timothy Frieslarsen. Through the opening chicane, bouncing that curb just a little bit. That's very far to the driver's right-hand side for Petty as he sets up for turns 4 and 5. Very tight through here. Difficult to get the throttle out of 5. Double apex. You're looking for that second apex for sure, and then setting up to the S's. Solovich a tiny bit wide out there, but he's got, I think, the advantage of enough laps still to do this. 8 to go at the line.
Yeah, it's looking very, very likely, just as they go through more corners, I should say. So that gap is slowly closing down by the looks of it. So it's probably going to be a matter of if not when for Solovich to get that position back and be ending up on the podium. Whether Andrew Petty can put up enough of a fight, though, that's going to be the interesting one. I don't think Andrew Petty's going to let this one go too easily, but we'll have to wait and see in the next couple of laps once this gap really closes up and they get nose to tail with each other. Oh, big slide as well from Andrew Petty through that chicane there as well, really getting it cranked sideways.
Takes the same line as before, but this is a big gain so far last lap and on this lap in the battle for the podium spots. Kostek Solovich, with 6th gear all the way down the front straight, is now beginning to pick up a little bit of a toe, and those speeds are monumental. They're above 280 kilometers an hour for almost the whole length of the long front straight here. And really add and compound, and they come out of this version of the Peraltada with a little bit more speed as well. Through the S's, Petty seems pretty level, but on the front straight, this could be very interesting.
Quite, or maybe it's maybe going to be close enough to get a move done here, but it's might just be a little bit too big of a gap. Maybe we'll have to see. Doesn't look like it's quite going to happen, but it's certainly going to happen next lap based on the gap they've got this time by.
Andrew Petty with a bit of a weave, I'd call that interesting, and Solovich gaining a couple of tenths in the slipstream from that distance back. Begins to close in there. Using all of the grip, moving the cars around a little bit on the corner exit as the significant power that they've got goes to the ground. Gaining through the tight stuff. Didn't seem to gain through the fast corners a lap ago. But he's there, about half a second back. One corner flows into the next, minding the curbs, the track limits through their slipstream on this part of the back straight. Before you maybe look for a bit of clean air on your wing through Dallara here. They start out wide, come back to an apex. Solovich, what's he going to do? Neither driver seems to touch the overtake system. Andrew Petty touches the left, the right side of the track. No, I don't think this helps at this point, man.
Yeah, that's definitely taking the definition of touching tyres with the edge of the track. Oh, a little bit of contact as well, wheel-to-wheel contact through turn one. Oh, Petty with a big slide over the curb. And then that's going to allow Solovich to get a run out of the chicane. He's going to at least try to go around the outside here. He's just trying to get some side draft that doesn't exist, but he's going to brake late. They're not quite going to be able to have any overtaking there, and Petty's going to just hold on for ever so slightly, a little bit longer over Solovich.
Try to look around the outside there, and you can weave to break the draft, but I don't think you can do it when you're that close. You've got to be careful there. And Solovich, I think, is now trying to be careful around Andrew Petty because he doesn't really want to go around the outside in some of these places. He doesn't trust the car control of his rival. He's a little offline through the S's. Solovich, surely you wait. But he goes for the inside of the final corner. We are side by side to come on to the front straight, and they touch. Andrew Petty spins around into the wall. Solovich up into third. Petty massively damaged. And from 16 starters, it looks like we might only get 8 finishes. Anis Law from 16th on the grid and 16th seed by iRacing is now up into 4th position. We'll take a look there and we'll get Candance's read of the two cars colliding in the final corner.
Yeah, a bit of an unfortunate incident there, and I think it was sort of brewing. We saw how aggressively they were fighting each other early on, and I think it really was going to end up happening with an incident, something like that. You just saw the idea of going to the inside, I did think was maybe to try and ruin the run from Solovich, but I think he just got a little bit too eager on the throttle and just understeer into Andrew Petty, and Petty unfortunately not in a position where it's going to end too well for him, so unfortunately ends up in the wall backwards with heavy damage to the right hand side of that car, and his day unfortunately ruined.
Well, that is drama. Timothy Fries-Larsen still leading the race from Lucas Hand, Kostek Solovich. And Sis Law up into 4th place. Dan Jiang fading somewhat in 5th place there. It's Benjamin David in 6th. Jack McCauley's the first car a lap down. And Daniel Zofko in 8th. How are our drivers that started on wets going? Is Jack McCauley or Benjamin David the highest placed of them?
That was a good question. I think it's Benjamin David. Yes. McCauley just a little bit behind David at the moment. David come through the final corner, and McCauley just coming through the S section now.
Well, the radar had a tiny bit of rain for later, but I think the way that these Super Formula races go, we're done before any more sprinkles arrive, and just in time. That looks like a little bit more than a sprinkle.
Yeah, it does look like it's going to be a little bit moist, and you probably do want wets for that big blob of rain coming towards the circuit, but with only a couple of laps to go, very unlikely to see it. We might get some sprinkles right on the last lap, maybe, but yeah, that's definitely not going to be any sort of problem for anyone in this race, especially with some nice hot slicks that they're on at the moment. So
Larson has his first tickle of the overtake system. 90 seconds of cool down with 3 laps to go. I think he'll get it back just in time for the final lap of the race, which will be therefore a blaze of glory. No, he's still active on it. So I think he's activated it, and that's going to be this 200 seconds all the way to the end. See what kind of a margin he can extend over Lucas Hand. and Kostek Solovic, those drivers have still got their overtake system available to them. Ancestor Dan Jiang and Benjamin David using theirs. Jack McCauley with still 200 seconds left for the Scotsman in 7th. He goes Fries Larsen, and this is going to be a monumental run down the front straight.
Yeah, it'll be a pretty hot lap time too, with it being 1 minute 11.9, so absolutely blistering lap there from Fries Larsen, and some pretty big speed as well on the way down to turn 1, 313 kilometers an hour before he hits the brake pedals, so pretty quick in a straight line, just buzzing off the limiter as well, so certainly putting that good engine to use.
Yeah, Hand and Solovic come to 2 laps to go and also activate their overtake system, so lap times are going to tumble, but we don't see that many battles for position in the final laps here of Mexico City for SimSpeed iRacing Super Formula. This is an iRacing official series. It's open to everyone, and this is the most competitive time slot that we broadcast every week and also keep track of our own points. And in that system, this is heading towards another clean sweep, pole and win, 23 points for Timothy Fries Larsen.
That's exactly what he wants to be aiming for, to try and win this championship if he's going the way he's going, trying to get as many points as he can. And it's doing exactly what he's doing, getting 23 altogether with pole and obviously the race win. Doing it with a pretty comfortable lead as well as he starts his final lap. And there is the sprinkles of rain.
Wow. So we see the white flag. Timothy Fries Larsen lays down a new fastest lap of the race. But then as he arrives in turn 1 on the final lap, the rain is here. It takes a while for it to actually have an effect because the track has heated up. The track maintains some warmth. And so the rain falls on it and evaporates immediately until we cool off the racetrack. It will take a minute, and a lap only takes a minute. Lucas Hand, 2nd and 3rd, with Kostek Solovic also in their overtake system, laying down a hot final lap. For Fries Larsen, there's only one corner left to go. It's the big oval corner around the outside of the baseball diamond. And the Norwegian will take his 2nd race win, and he'll lead the championship by a big margin. He crosses the line, and he's the winner high in Mexico City.
Yeah, and a very dominant win as well, as expected of Fries Larsen.
There's Hand for 2nd.
Yeah, he's just going to run out of overtake as he crosses the line as well. And Solovic recovering to a 3rd place after a bit of a rough start to the race. So pretty good drive there, not without controversy though, as we saw with Andrew Petty at one point.
Jiang in 5th. Benjamin David 6th. A long way back, and then I think he's the last car on the lead lap. McCauley went a lap down in 7th, and Zofko I think was 2 laps down in 8th. Did he leave the wets on for the full 28 lap duration? And in his case, it was only 26?
Yes, he did.
Well, he was hoping that this rain would arrive maybe 10 minutes ago. It didn't, unfortunately. How about that? The rain stops right at the start of the race and returns right at the end in Mexico City. None of it could stop our form driver. Timothy Fries Larsen is the winner with one of the larger margins that we've seen so far this season. 14.6 seconds from Lucas Hand, Kostek Solovic into 3rd. Francis Law from 16th on the grid to 4th place. Dan Jiang 5th. Benjamin David, last driver on the lead lap, in 6th. Jack McCauley, made a pit stop from wet tyres to slick tyres, and he finished 7th. Daniel Zofko kept the wet tyres on the whole race, went 2 laps down, but he was the last driver to finish the race in 8th. Drama late on made a DNF for Andrew Petty, and Denis Morentsov was involved in that arena crash that we saw in front of Dan Jiang. But Brett Greaves, Felipe Sarkis, Nodi ML, Dejan Palnov, Lawrence Brown, and Miguel Fachado now retirements from a bruising Mexico City GP. Our whole podium are to hand, or at least 3 drivers. And we'll go to just the podium here. Second place, Lucas Hand will join Cam Dance.
Lucas, a pretty quiet race for you in that one. It was looking like there might have been a little bit of competition early on, but unfortunately it just sort of broke out the gap, did Timothy, and then you're going to end up with a second place in the end. Unfortunately, just not quite able to get there in the end.
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough race. I started 6th, so I was down the order originally, so it was going to be really hard to get off the start. Plus, the rain threw a spanner in the works to decide what tires to put on. But I made the decision to put on dries in the end, which was the right call. The track dried up really, really fast, and so that was definitely the right call. And yeah, Tim just had the overall pace today. I think that number 1 machine was just really, really fast, and he put in a lot of work this week to get to that speed, and I wasn't able to. I just came back from a flight from my own personal F4 race last weekend, so I wasn't able to put as much time into this week than he was. But no, yeah, it was a good solid finish for me. I think I definitely got really lucky with some spins and some DNFs, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with that result.
Yeah, in terms of the rain, obviously it played a little bit of havoc with some drivers going on wet, some were going on dries. It was nothing really overly problematic early on, but did it make any difference in terms of grip early on in the first couple of laps once you guys got going, or was it just sort of normal driving as if it was dry?
I think there was like the hint of the track being a bit damp. Like you could definitely feel it a little bit. And I think that everybody was just on high alert and was just driving us slightly under the limit than we usually do. Just because we never know, especially with the Super Formula. As soon as it gets wet, it gets really, really difficult, really, really fast on slick tires. So everyone was just really, really cautious on the start. And, obviously there was the crash at turn 4 that I narrowly avoided. And that was, probably because people were just misjudging like the slight dampness of the track. And, after 2 or 3 laps when the rain cleared out, it was, pretty much dry conditions for the rest of the race. So yeah, no, I think it was very difficult at the beginning, but it got better towards the end for sure.
Well, we head to Catalonia next week for Barcelona. It's the good layout, the historic one. So are you looking forward to it? Just any thoughts on it? You think you're going to be up the front again, have any decent pace?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think Barcelona is a great track for this car. It shows a lot of the strengths, and there's a lot of overtaking opportunities, especially on the huge front straightaway. And yeah, I think it'll be a good track for me. I've gone well there in the past, and I hopefully can make my car work really well around there.
Well, all the best for the next week, and we'll hopefully talk to you again, Lucas. And I believe, Dave, you are standing by with our race winner.
Yeah, he's going to join us. Welcome, Timothy Fries Larson, and big congratulations on your race win. You take the championship lead.
Yeah, thanks. And this was a bit of a weird one to put in one way, for me at least.
Because of the racing or because of the weather?
I mean, I wasn't too concerned with the weather, because like looking at the radar, there was just a tiny patch of rain. So yeah, the tire choice was clear. But yeah, this weekend, just like last week, really, I just got such a bad start compared to what I've gotten in the past. So yeah, I had some, I guess, unexpected fighting due to that bad start. But yeah, I managed to have some good clean racing and get the lead back. And then yeah, the car felt okay, not the best, but not the worst. And yeah, from there it was just bringing it home.
Last time I asked you who's going to win the World Cup, have you kept firm to your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say anything else. Like, yeah, of course, facing Brazil is going to be tough, but I believe in our team.
Absolutely. Saving all of that overtake system to the very, very end is your strategy, but I guess the way that everyone else raced and the dramas that happened, you didn't need it to make the positions back after the start.
Yeah, like the thing is, when you have such a lead, then like you might as well just go for the fastest possible lap at the end. And I guess it doesn't really matter too much here at this circuit because the air is so thin. So the push to pass doesn't make such a big difference. But yeah, it's still nice to go for a little extra push at the end and get that extra point.
What is this season and this championship going to mean for you? You now take the championship lead. What are you thinking this season can have in store for you? We're going to see you for every race.
I know for sure that I'm gonna miss, I think, round 6 and 7. No pun intended. But yeah, like just like always, I'm gonna do my best to like win every race, I guess. But yeah, I do hope like guys like JT Smeaton and Kevin Foster return to, I guess, heat it up a bit more at the front.
Well, we look forward to it. A great race from you, even if maybe the final 22 laps or so were a little bit boring. It lands with the pole position, 23 points in your pocket, and that is going to do very, very well for you if there's a couple of races you might need to miss.
Yeah, for sure. I'll of course take all the points I can get, and yeah, I of course gonna go for the win this season as well.
Kick those goals, and hopefully it won't have to go to penalties.
Yeah, I agree.
Timothy Fries-Larsen, the race winner at Mexico City, joining us after another dominant performance. Well, it's great to have you all part of our broadcast, and this is supported by the community and by these sponsors. We have Sync Mesh, Tamash Setups, Get Good. They're supported by 3R Simworks, James Byrne Coaching, and Lap Labs. Also by Full Push Sim Gear, Canada's ultimate destination for elite gear. From precision pedals to professional turnkey rigs, we fuel your obsession, pure performance, expert support. Push harder, drive faster. Sim Racing Nation, the community for sim racing enthusiasts and motorsport professionals from around the world. They focus on fostering competitive racing and an environment for drivers of all skill levels. TDI 99, level up with 15 years of racing grit. TDI delivers pro tips, quick laps, and the hard truths F1 won't discuss. Follow TDI 99 on YouTube today. Ready to hit the track? Rookie Racing is your spot to discover motorsports. We make it easy for new racers to get behind the wheel, so stop dreaming and start driving. Book your experience or full season at rookieracing.ca, located in the Greater Toronto area. Cam Dance, we look forward to next week's race, another epic track.
Yeah, Barcelona is one that's synonymous with these cars and generally Grand Prix racing in general and open wheelers. So it's sure to be a fantastic race, hopefully. Hopefully we get some decent competition, as Timothy Fries-Larsen hoped for. The likes of JT Smeaton, Kevin Foster, and a few of the other big hitters hopefully come back out and play next week. So if they do, it's bound to be one heck of a showdown, that's for sure.
So there we have it. We'll see you here on SimSpeed TV this time next week for the next round of Formula B Super Formula Series, the top split of the iRacing official series. I've been David Haynes with Cam Dance and Jay Kennedy at Mexico City as Timothy Fries-Larsen takes the championship lead.